Okay, hi everyone. This video was originally going to be an April Fool's Day video, but I decided not to do it this year. And the reason for that is because of all the stuff that's going on in the world, and also the joke I was going to do was a bit too believable, and I think some people might have gotten quite annoyed about it, so I might move it on to next year or the year after. But with that being said, I've already gotten into the mood of making a video today, and I don't know exactly what I want to do because that's thrown my plans up in the air. So I thought what I might do is just give you a little sneak preview behind the scenes of how I make stuff, and also we'll get some of my Discord community and my other friends involved to help me make the rest of this video. I have no idea how this is going to go because I haven't done anything like this before, but you're about to see the results, so let's get into it. Okay, so first of all we're going to do a breakdown of the workspace. If we look down here, we have the SteelSeries Apex Pro keyboard, a little bit over the top for your regular user, but one thing I like about it is the ability to change the sensitivity of the actuation point of each of the individual keys for this area of the keyboard. And of course the RGB is just a nice addition. If we look over to the right, we have the main desktop, and I can open this up. Inside of here we have an RTX 2080 Ti. We also have an i5 9600K processor, I believe, just underneath the Corsair cooler, and there's about 32 gigabytes of RAM, so there's some room for improvement and some room for expansion inside of this case, but that does me really well for now. And also because it's GeForce, we can use CUDA with the rendering inside of Blender to speed it up. In fact, whenever I can, I use the GPU more than the CPU. Sometimes I just try and turn the CPU off wherever possible for rendering. On the left here, you can see we have an extra monitor. This is where I can monitor Adobe Audition's recording. And what's it recording with? Well, the Blue Yeti, of course. I may step up from this in the future because I have a few issues with the Blue Yeti. It's good for most cases, but it is actually surprisingly sensitive. And it's quite annoying having to try and cut out all the wet mouth noises and clicks and stuff, but Adobe Audition is really handy for this. And also, of course, we have the Nikon, I think it's the D3400, although I need to check that. We use this for doing the recordings for the Blender Nest podcast. So obviously if you've watched that, and if you haven't, then I recommend going and checking it out because there's me, Ducky, CG Matter, Southern Shotty, Grant Abbott, and Blender Binge who take part in that, and sometimes we have guests as well. So yeah, and also there's a SteelSeries mouse, and I need to keep myself hydrated while I work. And then we've got the Nintendo Switch over there, brilliant for Animal Crossing, which is fantastic for taking breaks in between complex Blender work. And down here we have the lovely notebook with the Blender sticker. I use this for Python notes because there's a bunch of stuff when using Python with Blender that you don't get told in the forums or in any tutorials that you really need to find through trial and error. So I write all these things down in here. I call it like my Half-Blood Prince notebook. That's a Harry Potter reference. Got my phone. And up here we have some artwork in my color scheme of Matt Bellamy from the band Muse. This was done by Nadine, who is a good friend of mine and a fantastic artist. And then, of course, we have controllers for the Switch and the Xbox One. Technically, I mean, this doesn't have to be used with the Xbox One. I've got it plugged in to Windows just via a regular cable because I play a lot of games in between doing my work. And we've got a redundant Logitech webcam there. Apparently these are in quite high demand at the moment with all the stuff that's going on. Because of course, with all the workplaces that are working from home now, the demand for webcams has gone up dramatically. And snuck away at the back here, we have a hot swap drive. There's an SSD in there, which I use for backups, but you can put hard drives in there as well. And because there's a lot of room in this case, I keep a bunch of extra hard drives stored there. Nice and handy. And I also use a bunch of USB splitters. And then I've got an extra splitter at the back as well, which is great for all these extra peripherals and also for USB drives. So if I need to hot swap out any work or do any backups, then that's really handy. So yeah, this is what it looks like for me. And what we're going to do now is we're probably just going to move on to talking to some people in my Discord community, to some friends, and getting their advice on some subjects related to creativity that we can all sympathize with. So join me there. And yeet. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Are you ready for your special interview? What would you say to someone who is just starting to make artwork and is feeling really insecure about their work because they don't think they're as good as everyone else?
Don't focus more on what other people think, but focus more on how you feel when you try and make something. Go based off of your own feelings. Like, for example, if you listen to music, whether you're sad or happy or in some kind of mood. Think of arts similar to that feeling, your emotions, how you express yourself.
I would say never try to compare yourself to somebody that's already been spending a lot of time. And in general, don't try to compare yourself to other people because everybody's different, everybody learns in a different pace, and you're not going to reach the same level as them at the same time.
Well, for me, I always say you got to start somewhere. Everyone starts from the bottom and has to work their way up in some way. You're not born to, to know how to design or draw or, in my case, cook. Everyone learns.
So what I would say is I would tell the person not to expect perfection, like right off the bat, because it's going to take a lot of time and dedication in order to get to the point, to the goal that they're aiming for.
Do you have any major inspirations?
When it comes to inspirations, I usually listen to some sort of music. I like to listen to Disaster Piece, who is a composer for Hyperlight Drifter. His album is wonderful. I like to listen to various online music stations because they give me just sort of random songs which I would have never met on my own. And this source of inspiration is always spontaneous and gives me various ideas.
I think this goes back to when I was originally learning in college. One of the lecturers gave a speech, and it's originality is plagiarism without being caught. So in terms of inspiration, there's very little inspiration, especially in today's market. It's things that are rehashed or slight variations on design. Inspiration, you need to go way back. So let's take an example like Beeble. Beeble turned his art into a daily project, and that became a trend, and that trend became further and further. So he ended up doing things like for Louis Vuitton, where he's getting these prints on t-shirts. So in terms of inspirations, guys like Beeple, I was taught by an old guy, and it was called Larry Schultz, and he used to work on things like Johnny Neutron, Starship Troopers, Battlestar Galactica. These kind of people are inspirations, but not in terms of their artwork, more as people.
My sources of inspiration is, since I'm mainly into web design, is generally everywhere. Everything I do on a daily basis is done over web, so then I'm always bombarded with new pieces of inspiration and things to see and, probably use later in my later projects. But when it comes to 3D modeling too, it's also the world's three-dimensional. Anything you see, you can model. So the world's your oyster when it comes to that.
What would you say to someone who wants to make new friends and share their work online, but they're too nervous to do it?
I highly recommend Discord communities most because it is live chat and people are very friendly generally. There are usually a critique and comment sections, and there's usually a place for you to share your finished artwork. And everyone is an artist starting out. Everyone generally, even if they're a pro, they're always learning. This is a type of work that has no ceiling. So you just need to get out there and talk to people, throw in a thumbs like and start talking. Talking is just a great way to get your confidence.
I suppose the only thing you can really think is to think what's the alternative. If you don't try to extend that branch and engage with the wider community, you're not going to go as far as you possibly could if you just kept it to yourself and within your own kind of secluded community. You need to look for the opportunity and embrace it.
Coming here to the community, for example, I just say, hello, I introduce myself and started posting some art I did, and I started to see the reaction of the people that they like my work, and sometimes they corrected me if I needed to do something and stuff like that. So just start by saying hi.
It's very nice. Have you ever seen a UFO?
In my dreams, I've been in one.
I think I did. I saw something fly up into the sky, hold still, and then zip down again. And in a matter of seconds, it was a pretty bright light, like a star that just went up and then back down again, which was strange because it went up, held itself, and went back down.
I haven't actually. I would like to see one though. Would be pretty cool.
No, I mean, I've been convinced I've seen them several times, and I've realised that it's just been planes on a night sky, so I can't claim I have.
Do you believe humans will one day abandon their biological bodies and only live in cyberspace?
I think we would be able to replicate ourselves but we would be different entities. I don't think our own selves would be preserved in a cyberspace because much of our personality is tied in with our motor skills and genetic makeup. And each individual cell has its own mind, has its own physical properties, so what we are as who we are would not be able to migrate. But I do think we'll be able to create beings who are just as sentient and just as self-aware and just as spiritual and thoughtful as we are in cyberspace.
Okay, that's a very good answer. Thank you.
Like physically, like fully abandon our bodies?
I'll leave that open
Like
to interpretation.
I assume you mean nothing, like not even like just a brain in a jar. My assumption would be this is like the Matrix, where you're just in stasis, but you're in a cyber sort of world. I mean, I guess we kind of are already with VR. I mean, eventually maybe people could just live with VR headsets on.
Are there any underrated films or music albums or video games that you want people to know about?
You know, this game is likely very known by now, but I want to give a shout out to Warframe. It's a game I've been playing for over 5 years by now. When I started that game, the concept, the art, the dedication that the game was given is huge when you think about it. Like the complexity of the assets and the story now, because the game when I started, it didn't have like a story yet. I feel that has a lot of love. You can see it in the visuals, in how the game runs. The optimization, yes, there are glitches, but the game still runs fairly well. You know, I feel like there was a lot of effort put into it for a game that is the first game that I ever started playing on PC on. So yeah, the Warframe, that's something I would say.
If someone say video games, I would like to talk about arcade racers, because this is something that I really enjoy. I'm not sure they're underrated, but not a lot of people know about them. For example, Daytona USA is truly a true work of art, because it captures what arcade racing is. It's very fun, it's fast. I feel like even if you've never played an arcade racer, you should try that. It's really fun. You might discover something new.
Music-wise, the band Jet. If I mention the band Jet, most people are gonna say, "Are you gonna be my girl?" But they have an album called Shaka Rock, and I love it. I think it's great, and I recommend that.
Well, the Mass Effect series, classic. just stop before Andromeda. Well, I mean, play Andromeda. It's a little bit good, gameplay-wise, but story-wise, just ignore it. Just pretend it didn't happen.
I think I'll add that in. And the last question is, since there are people listening, is there any message you want to give to the world?
Try not to focus on the negative energy, the negative attention. Just focus on being yourself, trying to be the best version of yourself and being happy. Because ultimately, our time is limited, so just make the best of it so that you can at least go out with a smile in your face.
That's very nicely said. Thank you. Since there are people listening, do you have a message for the world?
I'm gonna have to say, with this whole situation going on, just stay at home, stay safe, protect your loved ones, don't meet your. God damn it! Can I start that again?
No, I'll put it at the end of the video.